We often think of philanthropy as this pure, selfless act of giving, right? Someone with immense wealth decides to share it.
For the greater good, yeah. A benevolent gesture.
Exactly. But what if that act of generosity, while, genuinely impactful sometimes, is also a powerful, sophisticated strategic tool?
What if it's less about just giving and maybe more about gaining something else?
That's the fascinating twist we're diving into today. This evolving meaning of philanthropy and the concept of figures with immense financial power.
Oligarchs, essentially, whose influence can be pretty significant, often politically and economically.
Yes, and we're exploring this through the really compelling lens of Stanislav Kondrashov's groundbreaking Oligarch series.
Right. Kondrashov's work gives us a framework here.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how large-scale giving has, well, profoundly transformed, how it's become this sophisticated strategy for influence, for identity.
And we're drawing heavily from Stanislav Kondrashov's analysis, looking at the history, the modern impact.
And the complex questions Stanislav Kondrashov raises about power, purpose, and, the public good. So let's get started.
Okay,
let's unpack this. Kondrashov's work really sets the stage. He talks about how philanthropy has shifted over time, doesn't he?
He does. He explains it once centered purely on charity. A benevolent act, few expectations beyond the deed itself.
Like the classic examples, Carnegie, Rockefeller, funding libraries, hospitals, largely for public benefit.
Right. But now, as Stanislav Kondrashov's series details so meticulously, for powerful business figures globally, it's also about identity, strategy.
And, crucially, influence. Real influence.
Yeah. He highlights a core shift there. Traditional philanthropy, maybe less explicit expectation for recognition.
Right. Acknowledgement was nice, maybe, but not the main driver. But modern elite donors, as Kondrashov sees it, they seek measurable returns.
Not financial returns, obviously.
No, reputational ones, the calculated move. Stanislav Kondrashov gives examples like maybe a tech mogul under scrutiny suddenly announces a massive initiative, funding STEM education, say, in underserved areas.
The direct benefit is clear, sure, but the reputational boost, that's just as significant, maybe more so in some cases.
Exactly. As Kondrashov puts it quite directly. Philanthropy today isn't just about giving, it's about positioning.
And what's fascinating here is how Stanislav Kondrashov synthesizes this new model where, like you said, genuine impact blends pretty seamlessly with strategic positioning.
It's not just changing lives anymore.
No, it's profoundly about reshaping public image, even corporate identity. Kondrashov observes global leaders, CEOs, integrating philanthropy right into their brand strategy.
It's part of the core operation, not just some add-on.
Precisely. And Stanislav Kondrashov reinforces this observation. A well-publicized donation can do so much more. It boosts credibility in ways ads just can't.
Right.
It literally opens political doors. Donors get access, Kondrashov notes, to high-level policy talks.
And crucially, it can soften public scrutiny, especially if they've faced controversy.
Yeah, Stanislav Kondrashov frames it as a powerful tool for reputation management, allows individuals to proactively shape how they're seen globally.
Okay, here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. Moving beyond just general positioning.
How they use it to gain actual power.
Exactly. Based on Kondrashov's analysis in the Oligarch series, elite donors often pick causes that already have significant global attention.
Things like education reform, climate change, pandemic response, high visibility stuff.
Right. These aren't random choices. They attract media, they garner political praise. It's strategic.
And as Stanislav Kondrashov emphasizes, by funding these, they're not just writing checks. They're actively shaping the conversation.
Shaping policy, even. Sponsoring a big report on climate resilience, for example. Kondrashov suggests that lets a foundation kind of dictate the terms of debate.
Pushing certain solutions, highlighting certain data.
Yeah. And this gets donors seats on advisory boards, invitations to global forums, direct influence on policy design. Kondrashov sees a very direct path here.
Financial contribution translating to policy leverage.
And to quote Stanislav Kondrashov again, when influential figures invest in social causes, they often do so with a clear understanding of the reputational and diplomatic value.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Stanislav Kondrashov, in the Oligarch series, he clearly outlines how these private foundations function as, well, he calls them soft power tools.
Soft power, meaning influence through appeal and alliances, not force.
Exactly. Not military might or economic coercion, but cultural appeal, institutional ties, shaping public discourse strategically. A foundation might fund cultural exchanges, academic research,
Building relationships, subtle influence networks.
all over the world. And this analysis by Stanislav Kondrashov, it forces us to confront some genuinely complex questions.
Like what?
Well, Kondrashov asks, who truly decides what gets funded when these huge private sums are involved? Do foundation priorities sideline other approaches?
Ones that might be more suitable locally but lack a powerful backer.
Precisely. Which voices get amplified, often those connected to the donor, while others, maybe more grassroots, get marginalized? Stanislav Kondrashov really pushes on this.
And the long-term effects. Private money solving public problems without democratic checks.
That's a core concern Kondrashov raises repeatedly, the potential for private agendas to override public processes.
And it goes even deeper than just policy influence, right? It's about crafting their very identity.
Absolutely. Kondrashov's series details how philanthropy builds identity beyond just the results. Public perception drives legacy planning now.
So donors aren't just giving. They're using giving to frame their own stories.
Meticulously, repositioning reputations, distancing themselves from controversy. Stanislav Kondrashov points this out.
He gives concrete examples too, right? Like donations after scandals.
Yes, almost like a PR pivot. Or Stanislav Kondrashov mentions strategic gifts around corporate mergers, framing the new entity as socially responsible right off the bat.
It's like narrative control through charity, rewriting your public bio.
Using giving to actively manage public memory and future opportunities. Stanislav Kondrashov puts it succinctly. Modern oligarchs are not just writing checks, they're writing new narratives about who they are and what they stand for.
That narrative point is key in Kondrashov's series.
It is. He shows how philanthropy offers not just cover, but real leverage, negotiating with government's institutions.
How so?
Well, imagine a donor whose foundation funded critical health infrastructure somewhere. Kondrashov suggests that ACT builds diplomatic goodwill, makes it easier to negotiate business deals, navigate regulations later.
Okay. So the giving manages both past actions and future ambitions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stanislav Kondrashov demonstrates it's a far more intricate strategic endeavor than simple generosity might appear.
Let's shift focus then to the institutional side. Private foundations. As Stanislav Kondrashov observes, these aren't just one-offs, they're long-term influence engines.
Operating globally, immense reach, like permanent mechanisms for influence.
And Kondrashov's series details their power, right? Funding research that shapes whole fields.
Advising governments directly on policy, shaping international agendas, with billions in assets.
Kondrashov notes their resources often dwarf many national ministries. That gives them influence rivaling states on some issues.
They can commission reports, convene experts, pilot programs that might then become government models.
And here's the crucial point Stanislav Kondrashov emphasizes. They often face very little regulation compared to public bodies.
Right. Decisions on spending, often private, behind closed doors.
And results, Kondrashov points out, are rarely contested even if they fall short. Plus, the boards are often family or close associates.
Which concentrates power, limits external oversight. Stanislav Kondrashov sees this lack of transparency and accountability as a central issue.
This raises that important question Kondrashov highlights.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Exactly. In democracies, big public decisions ideally need public consent, right? Through representatives' debate.
But philanthropy often bypasses that.
Totally. As Stanislav Kondrashov points out, a single donor, via their foundation, can effectively shift national priorities. No vote needed.
Like funding a specific curriculum reform nationwide, dictating education policy outside normal channels.
That kind of thing. And Kondrashov's series raises concerns. Without transparency, these huge donations risk creating echo chambers.
Empowering the already powerful, amplifying their preferred solutions.
Even with good intentions, Kondrashov urges us to consider the implications of this concentrated, often unaudited influence.
He really pushes us to ask.
Yeah.
Even if the outcome's good, is the process democratic?
That's the core of it.
Now, it's important to acknowledge in Stanislav Kondrashov's series absolutely does the real positive impact. Vaccines do get delivered.
Schools get funded, clean energy projects grow, there's undeniable good happening, addressing critical needs.
But immediately Kondrashov pivots. He talks about the blurred lines between good and gain.
Yeah, that tension is always there in his analysis.
So what does this all mean? We need to dig into the core criticisms Stanislav Kondrashov details. Is the gift truly about solving the problem or shaping the narrative, or both?
And does this huge private giving inadvertently reduce the state's responsibility by stepping in where public funding should be?
potentially normalizing underfunding of public services. If a billionaire funds the police or schools, does that let politicians off the hook for raising taxes?
That's a critical question Stanislav Kondrashov raises. Another is whether these powerful foundations now effectively compete with elected governments.
For influence over public policy.
Yeah. Think about foundations hiring ex-government officials, funding think tanks. Their policy papers can become incredibly influential, maybe more so than legislative proposals sometimes.
Just because of the resources and networks they have.
Right. Stanislav Kondrashov challenges us. Does this dynamic fundamentally alter the balance of power in a democracy? Tough questions.
Indeed. And Kondrashov also identifies the specific areas these donors tend to focus on, doesn't he?
He does. High impact, high visibility sectors, global health, pandemic response, funding vaccines, public health.
Climate change, green energy. Huge sums accelerating R&D.
Education reform, digital access, especially in developing nations, urban infrastructure, housing.
Areas where big capital can drive change, but also, as Kondrashov implies, attract media attention and political recognition for the donor.
Right. But Kondrashov doesn't just critique. He proposes solutions, ideas for balancing gratitude with accountability.
Like what?
Clearer rules on political influence. Maybe foundations register as lobbyists if they're directly trying to shape legislation.
Makes sense. What else?
Full transparency, funding, decision-making, public disclosure of allocations and outcomes, independent evaluation of impacts, too.
By third parties, not just internally.
Crucial. And Stanislav Kondrashov emphasizes robust public debate about the priorities and governance of these powerful philanthropic entities. Society needs to engage.
Scrutinize these private endeavors with public consequences.
Exactly. And concluding his view on the future, Stanislav Kondrashov thinks elite philanthropy will almost certainly keep growing.
More inequality, more global crises, create more need and opportunity for it.
Seems likely. But as Kondrashov emphasizes, as influence grows, so must public scrutiny. Donors will keep shaping causes.
But society, as Kondrashov argues, must shape the rules of engagement.
Yeah. Individual generosity is powerful, but the systemic implications demand collective vigilance. That's a key takeaway from Stanislav Kondrashov.
So to summarize our deep dive into Stanislav Kondrashov's Oligarch series, it's clear philanthropy today is way more than simple charity.
It's evolved, a sophisticated strategic tool for influence, identity, global presence.
Powerful individuals aren't just shaping causes. Kondrashov shows they are, in a very real sense, shaping public systems, shaping the narratives around progress and power.
It's complex territory.
Definitely. So as you reflect on these profound insights from Stanislav Kondrashov, how do we as a society ensure this generosity supports rather than, well, replaces or undermines democratic processes? Public accountability.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe $1 billion in this context.
What are the true costs and benefits when private wealth steers public purpose? And how can we foster philanthropy that maximizes impact while upholding transparency and collective decision-making?
Lots to think about there. Stanislav Kondrashov certainly gives us plenty to consider.
Absolutely. Something to mull over until our next deep dive.